My name is Sarah, and I have a story for you around postpartum depression and anxieties. My son was born in June 2007, and when he was born, we had all of the joy that you would expect to come with the birth of a child. But what I was surprised about was all of the other overwhelming feelings that kind of accompanied the joy. So I found that as I was adjusting to motherhood, I was adjusting to a whole host of other issues. It wasn't just that I was learning how to diaper and feed and provide for a child. I also was trying to deal with a new home and a new schedule and a different way of managing my lifestyle that was completely foreign to me. I became so consumed with everything else that I started to forget about myself. And when it actually really reared its head was probably around the same time that my son started sleeping through the night. Because when he started sleeping through the night, I stopped. And I found that the times where I should have been sleeping were taken up with worrying and crying and cleaning and overanalyzing. And basically, it was a case of becoming a caregiver for my son and my husband and losing track of the person who, was probably one of the most important in the equation, which was myself. I worried a lot about my weight. I worried a lot about the care that I was giving my son, but I never really worried about my mental health. At about 3 months in, it probably hit its head. I remember I was the maid of honor in a wedding, and although it was, one of the most important days of my best friend's life, it was probably one of my most miserable because I couldn't separate the overwhelming sensations that I felt from the postpartum and from the different anxieties that came with it, from the joy of celebrating an event, as opposed to being happy that I was out with all my friends and family and we were at a dance and we were at a wedding. I was more consumed with the fact that, I wasn't happy with the way I looked in my dress or that I was worrying that, I was going to leak or something and thus, ruin the experience for myself. So at about that 3-month mark, I realized that I needed some help, and with a lot of support from my friends and family, I went to my family doctor, who then referred me to the reproductive mental health clinic at the IWK, where I met Debbie, who has been my saving grace through all of this. So I started going to her for treatment. It started every week. It petered off once I started getting a handle on things. It started to get a handle of it once I was able to finally acknowledge that there was an issue and I could talk about it. But I still had a lot of my symptoms present. So it has been an ongoing battle for the last 2 years. But I think ultimately where it ended at was that I love my son from the very beginning. I was lucky enough to not have my relationship with him affected, but what happened was that my relationship with myself was affected, where as I started to fall in love with him, I fell out of love with myself. So I wasn't the same person that I thought I should be. I had the right toys, I had the right clothes, I had the right play dates, but regardless of what I did, I wasn't happy with myself. I can't imagine having gone through that without having the help that I did get. So my biggest worry for all of my friends and my family that are starting to go through and experience motherhood is that they would experience something similar. So I think that there's a big need for things like the identification of postpartum and the difference between what baby blues are and an actual problem. And I think that services like the Reproductive Mental Health Clinic at the IWK need to be brought more to the forefront, because they are a wonderful resource and they do wonderful work with all sorts of moms dealing with all sorts of mental health issues. Ultimately, it's a good news story because I am pregnant again, but I do know that going through another pregnancy and going through another birth, I'm at a higher risk for more issues with postpartum and with dealing with a lot of these things again. The big difference is I know what I'm getting into and I know where I can get the help. I just worry that it's not going to be able to be available for other moms who might go through the similar things.